It's so nice to see you again. We start Module 2 setting up accommodations. In Module 1, rights and responsibilities, we discuss the importance of the rights that students have and the responsibilities that they have as a student with a permanent disability. How could knowing that information help you when setting up your accommodations? That's something that you might want to reflect on and think about. So let's start by talking to the newest member of the Accessibility Advising team, Nicole McLennan. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. So I've been asking lots of questions of all the accessibility advisors around what inspires them, what interests them. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about this new role that you've started and things that surprised you in your role.
Yeah, so I started working with the accessibility advisors 1 year ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I had an interest in accessibility before I started working here as well. So nothing really surprised me too much, but I will say I was surprised by how broad that field of accessibility and disability actually is, because we help students that have a very wide range of disabilities. And also we have to know about a lot of different supports on campus and out in the community. So we have a general knowledge about a lot of different things, and it also surprises me how resilient people can be.
So I know that you were in another role on campus. How's that been working with students?
Yeah, so before I was working in the Faculty of Engineering helping first year students who are coming into the program. And it was pretty similar because we still helped people that might have had disabilities or accessibility needs, but I didn't get to have the same hands-on support in engineering that I do now, so it's a good opportunity to grow.
So my question for you is that some students find it intimidating to set up accommodations, and they kind of want to put it off and think, oh, I'll do it later. Could you give some advice and talk a little bit about when it would be important to access accommodations?
Yeah, so ideally you would want to access accommodations as soon as you know that you have a disability or you suspect that you might have one. And that depends on where you're at with your disability, I think. So say you're coming in from high school and you already know that you have a diagnosis of ADHD, you can contact us as soon as you get your acceptance letter with the U of A over the summer, 4 months or so before you start classes, to give yourself some time, and we can get everything set up for you by the time you start. Because getting set up does take some time. We go through the whole registration process and get everything set up and talk to you about how it works, so it's good to give yourself that time. Or if you suspect that you might have a disability, even when you start classes, you notice that there's maybe something there or something that's making classes a struggle, you can contact us right away. You don't have to have a diagnosis to meet with us, but we can help kind of guide you from there.
So if students are watching this and thinking, well, I don't know, I don't have any documentation, I don't have any of the steps that I need to take to get the accommodations set up, that's okay, because you guys are here to help them through that process.
Yeah, exactly. That is okay. So you can come to us if you don't have documentation yet, and we give you a period of 4 months to look into it and help guide you so that you can get that.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we're with Dina again. So hi, Dina.
Hi, Tracy.
So could you tell us about how accessibility advisors determine what accommodations students have?
Yeah, well, first the advisors will get information that the student fills out before the interview or before the registration appointment, and often we'll get the documentation as well. So we'll review it first, just to kind of get an understanding of what the student is experiencing in school when it comes to academic activities. And then what we do is we have an interview with the student, which is part of the registration process. And what we do is we ask them questions about how they do various academic tasks. And then from there, we determine reasonable accommodation, and then we let students know how to use the accommodation. And we decide on accommodation based on the functional impacts of their diagnoses and what the barriers might be in the environment, and provide the accommodation that way.
Okay, so let's say I'm a student, and I hear of an accommodation that a friend has, and I think that, time and a half on an exam would be fantastic for me. Can I just come in and request that? How does that work?
No, you can't just request it. You have to be a student that has a permanent disability, and we need to have documentation from your healthcare practitioner to verify that. And then through the registration process, we would talk to you about, how you do in exams and what the challenges might be when it comes to exam writing. And then based upon the challenges, we might provide you with the time and a half. So we have to ensure that students do not, that students registered with our office do not have an advantage over other students. And so that's the reason why we need to have the backup documentation.
So what you're saying is you're just balancing the playing field so that they can achieve everything that they can possibly achieve with a disability.
Absolutely, yes. We give them the accommodation, and then it's their choice to use it or not.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
So now we're talking to Oksana again. Hi, Oksana.
Hi, Tracy.
As a student, do I have a say in the types of accommodations that I use?
Yes. After accommodations are approved by your accessibility advisor, you can choose to use some, none, or all of them for each course, exam, and assignment. For example, I used to work with a student who was very good at multiple choice exam questions, and the student chose not to request exam accommodation if they knew that exam will be a multiple choice. But if exam was planned to be an essay or long or short answer, the student would use full list of accommodations that we discussed and agreed on.
Ah, interesting. I was the opposite. So are students able to have accommodations for practicums, clinicals, internships? And if they can, how does that process work?
As any course, clinical course has competency requirements. So students, after reviewing course outline, syllabus, if they decide that they need accommodations, they could work with accessibility advisor on identifying where accommodations may be beneficial, and the goal is to make sure that student demonstrate the essential competencies required by the course.
Okay, so when you say essential competencies, what do you mean by that?
If you read your course outline or course syllabus, you will see some sections that say by the end of this course, student must demonstrate the following competencies. And this is what you're supposed to complete if you want to succeed in this course, if you want to complete the course.
Wonderful, thank you, Oksana.
Thank you.
We spoke with Brenda earlier, and she talked about the importance of booking your exam dates. And so we're going to talk to Brenda again. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
So could you tell us a little bit about the support available for exams?
Okay. There's a lot of support for students in booking their exams. There are accessibility advisors available to answer questions, as are staff in our main office. When they book their exams, they need to remember to first activate their accommodations, or they won't be able to book them. They need to make sure that they pick the accommodations that they need for an exam. Oksana talked earlier about being able to pick and choose what accommodations they want to use. If they have questions, they're certainly welcome to come and ask. The thing for them to remember, or for students to remember, is that we work with the student and have the accommodations set, but the instructor actually is the one who provides the accommodations. So they need to talk to the instructor about what time it's going to be, where it's going to be held, and any other kind of details that they need in regards to their accommodations.
Okay, well, and this program is talking a lot about how to make conversations around disclosure and self-advocacy for students much more comfortable. So there's support available around that as well, and we'll be talking much more about that throughout the 4 modules. But I guess the takeaway is that there's a lot of support to make this easier.
For sure, and to have that advocacy with instructors, there's support for that as well. There's yourself as a learning strategist, there's the advisor. It can be intimidating going and talking to an instructor, so we want students to be comfortable and learn how to advocate for themselves.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Okay.
So we're speaking with Nicole again. Nicole, could you talk about where students access exam accommodations?
Yeah, so if you mean kind of where they're writing their exams once they book them, we would support any place where instructors would support students to write their exams. As an example, when courses were remote because of the pandemic, naturally students would be writing their exams online, just with their accommodations like extra time or any sort of technology that they might have needed. But if it's an in-person exam, then it could be in a place that the professor supports and can set up, or if they need something like a distraction-reduced space or a private room, then there's spaces on campus that they can go to write that instructors can help coordinate so that students can get their accommodations.
Because Brenda mentioned that the students are speaking directly with their instructors in setting them up, so that's what you're referring to there.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to clarify any exam details with instructors if you're not sure.
Absolutely. So are students with disabilities allowed to opt out of a course? So let's say they're in a degree program and there's a particular course that will exacerbate one of their disabilities. Can they opt out of that particular course?
Yeah, so it depends on what the course is exactly. If it's something maybe more like an elective, there might be more flexibility. They'd always want to talk to their advisor and their faculty just to make sure, I think, before they drop any courses. But if it's maybe a required course for their program, one thing that accommodations can interfere with is lowering or changing academic standards required for their degree. So in that case, they would want to meet with us as soon as possible and discuss options from there.
Okay, so what kind of options would students be discussing with you if they were going to work around this kind of situation?
So for options, that could be working with an academic strategist to build academic skills for that course that can help them succeed. It might be talking to their healthcare practitioner about treatment options that might make their symptoms that are being exacerbated in that course a little bit more manageable, or adjusting or updating accommodations if it's warranted and if it might be needed.
And within the talk project, we're going to be talking about having difficult conversations. So that's something that can also be supportive to students around, because these could be some challenging conversations if they're symptoms are being exacerbated for certain reasons. And as you mentioned, learning specialists and you guys, and that's really, I think, an important point to make, is that the accessibility advisors are there to reach out to when you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah, you can reach out to us and we can even help point you in the right direction too, if it's something that goes beyond what we can help with.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.